In this video, we will build a fully working n8n AI automation from scratch that can read PDF documents, and I mean even ones of very poor quality or with barely visible text. We will use a tool called Mistral OCR, and then we will pass that document to an AI agent. And that AI agent can do anything we want with that document. For example, it can summarize it for us, it can translate it to another language, or it can answer questions about its content. And as I said, we will go through the entire process step by step, and by the end you will have fully functional solution that you can use at home or at work, or who knows, maybe even customize it a little bit further and sell as a service to other companies. It's my personal automation, and I've been using it quite a lot recently, as I had to review some legal documents after purchasing a property. And these documents usually look like that, and they are written in some legal language that I don't really understand. So instead of trying to read them as they are, I just use my AI automation instead and upload that document to Mistral OCR, and then AI agent will process that data for me. But maybe I will simply show how it works, okay? This is a PDF document that we are going to work with, and you can see it's very poor quality scan of my lease document from 1980s or 1990s, and it's not fun to read at all. Plus you can see some letters are barely visible here, and also the text takes just a quarter of every page. But then most of the PDFs look like that, to be honest. And I think this will be a good example. And we can see it's 44 pages document, extremely boring, which means instead of reading that all, what I usually do, you probably know by now that I'm lazy, I use my automation instead. I just do execute workflow, I browse for that document, this is this lease document, I select it, and submit. And now we can see the workflow is running. The document is being uploaded to Mistral. We then get signed URL. Now the OCR happens, Optical Character Recognition. This is another AI from Mistral that deals with this document. It tries to read what is in that document. And then we've got a markdown node, and now AI agent creates a summary for me of that document. And I use OpenAI, I think GPT 4.1, if I remember right. But we are going to build that from scratch again anyways. And if we check the output, like if I click the agent, alright, something I didn't think of, actually at the beginning, there are some personal details, but you can see, certainly, here is a detailed summary of the document you provided, which is a lease agreement and associated deeds related to the property I mentioned. Let me scroll down maybe. It tells me that this document includes images, such as architectural role plans and company seals, blah blah blah. But now I've got a one page, and my instruction is very basic. If we check my instruction, it's only like take all information from this side and create summary of that document. And this is the output, this is summary of this document. That's all the AI does. And how to set it up, how to customize the instructions for the AI agent, and everything else you will see during the build process. So maybe let's get started. Let me close this one. I didn't really mean to change anything, so I can leave without saving, but to get you started, you need one big prerequisite though, and this is the n8n platform. And n8n is a free-to-use automation platform, but it's free to use if you self-host it, which means you run it locally on your PC, laptop, or maybe mini PC like I do, or maybe some server in the cloud. And what n8n is and how to run it locally, we had a dedicated video about it. So if you want to do that first, if you want to follow each step, you have to watch that previous video, which includes step-by-step guide on how to run this n8n locally, which means you can run it free of charge. And there was also another video where we built our first AI agent, and that one is not really a prerequisite, but it might make a lot of sense to watch that one too. But as I said, it's optional, so it's your choice if you want to watch that one or not. Once you have n8n up and running, we can start creating our workflow. By default you will see nothing here, no projects, but you will have that Create Workflow button. That's what you want to click, and that's where you start building your workflows in n8n. And the first step is always so-called trigger. Something has to trigger that entire workflow. Let me click that plus then, and I will search, I think it's a form something. Yes, n8n form. And I need that trigger on a new n8n form event. We are building that first button where I could upload my file, my list document in that case. We will then be able to send that document up to Mistral OCR. And there is not much here for us to do. Form title, maybe I will call it document. You can add description, but it's optional. But what we want to do here is add form element. And field name, you will see what it is, don't worry about it. Form element, we will call it document again. But the element type, we want to choose file, because there are many elements that you can submit using this node, but we want to submit file. And we want to submit single file, so let me disable that multiple files. We are interested in single file. And now you can also limit it further to maybe just PDFs. But the fact is, Mistral OCR can read more than PDFs. It can read Word documents, PowerPoint presentations, so I will just leave it as it is. I will switch that to a required field, because we have to attach a document. We have to work with something. But that's it, that's all for this node. If we now go back to Canvas, you can see we've got our first node, because they are all called nodes here. And it's also a trigger, so-called trigger. Let me maybe rearrange that, and I can already test it. If I say execute workflow, now you can see those fields. First field we called document. Second field we also called document. Oh, sorry. This is that second field. And this is this window which let us select the file and submit it. If I browse for my file, that's the list document, I can now select it. And I can also submit it. And we've got workflow executed successfully. That's what we want to see. That's basically it. Our first node is up and running, which means now we can create a second node, which will upload our document up to Mistral AI. But before we do that, we have to have an account on Mistral OCR or Mistral AI. Because if you go there, the website is mistral.ai. That's what we need. And Mistral OCR is currently the best software available on the market to read information from PDFs, images, and other documents. And the coolest thing about Mistral OCR is that it's currently free of charge for you to use. You have to open so-called experiment plan or experimental plan, something like that, and it will not require any card details or any other payment methods. Simply when you sign up, it will ask you what type of account it is. You just say experiment and that's it. And what it means, you will be able to click that try the API, and this is where you will get free API keys. You will be able to create API keys. Like here I can create new key. I already have some, but yeah, I can create another one. And if you go to that docs in the top right corner, and then on the left, we choose Document AI, I think. Yes, that's it. And we choose that basic OCR. It's not really basic, it's very sophisticated. But you can see the options. OCR with PDF, OCR with uploaded PDF, and OCR with image. OCR stands for Optical Character Recognition. What we need from this website, we have to scroll down, and these are our options. And I'm already on curl, but I believe by default they are on Python. You will see something like that. If you have your solution written in Python, this is the code you can use, but for us, we will need that curl. You will see shortly why. So simply click that curl option, and all other options should switch to that curl as well. And you might guess it, we will need that upload a file. And we need that curl code. Why do we need it? You will see. There is like this gray little icon that will let you copy everything. So let's use it. I will just click on that to copy everything. I go back to my workflow now, and now I will click on this little plus to add another node. And I will search for HTTP. And this is exactly what I need. We will need actually 3 of them. And this is the first one. These requests can simply communicate between our PC or mini PC or server, whatever you run your n8n on. And it's the way of communication with Mistral AI remote site. I clicked on that, and now I can click that import curl. And now we simply paste this code here. I will paste it, click import. And what it does, it simply populates all those fields for me. And this is all cool, but the first thing I need here is the API key. And how to get the API key? Once you have your account, you have to go to that Mistral, either here API or maybe from the main site. You click that try the API, you will basically land on this page, and you click that API keys, and you click create new key. And you give it a name, Marek, Alright, mark key, yeah, that's fine. And I can set expiration date. And that's a really good choice here. For this video, I will choose tomorrow's date, which means tomorrow this key will already be expired. That way I don't have to blur it or something, because API key is basically your password, so how to keep it safe. But because mine will expire tomorrow, I will not create this video till tomorrow. It will be already expired when you watch the video. And I click create a new key. And this API key is only shown once, so you copy the key and you either save it immediately somewhere, or I will simply go back to our workflow and I will paste it here. And I want to paste it exactly here, after that bearer information. Which means this is a header, this is a HTTP header that will go to Mistral and it will show Mistral that it's you. You can think of that as your username and password for that Mistral service. This is what API key basically is. Maybe I will change one more thing, because we need 3 of those nodes and they will all be called HTTP request. Let me change that name to maybe upload to Mistral. That's cool. And we've got the authorization, and the below also was automatically populated. The purpose is OCR, but there is one more thing, because here you've got parameter type. And the type is n8n binary file, that's correct. The name can be left as file, it doesn't really matter. But what matters here is that input data field name. And what it is? The binary file, if you switch, because you've got different views. Here you've got schema, you've got table, JSON, and binary. So make sure you are here on the binary, and we need the name of our file, which is here called a document. Simply whatever here is on the top in red, you want to copy paste it here, in that field. And once we have it, I believe that's all we need. If I execute the step, oh okay, it asks me to run the whole workflow. That's fine. I will go back, let's run this workflow. I will browse, I will choose my document, select, submit, and let's see what happens. 2 things can actually happen. It can work or cannot, because I will tell you, alright, workflow executed successfully. That's success, but you might get an error at this stage, because these API keys, when you just create them, sometimes they don't work immediately. Actually, it can take up to 2 hours before an API key works correctly. I was lucky one, because mine worked within 1 minute, but it might not be the case for you. If it doesn't work, don't panic, don't worry, and don't try to change anything. Simply leave it as it is and try again in a while. Maybe your API key is simply not ready yet. But for us, it works already as expected, so we can go further. What I can also do, I can double click on that and I can pin that information. And what that pin does, it says exactly, node will always output current data instead of executing. I will click that, I will go back, and now it's like this purple color, that means it's pinned. And for testing purposes, it's a good option, because it means when you execute the workflow, this data is not constantly sent to Mistral back and forth. It will simply remember the current data and will just use this. It's especially useful if you have like API that is limited to maybe 10 requests a minute, let's say. You don't want to push the same data over and over again. It's better to pin it and it's stored here locally for now. Alright, but let's build another node. And another node will get us signed URL. Let me click that plus. It will be again HTTP request. That's fine. And we want to also import it as curl command. So I will go back here to this page with our curl commands, and this is the one I need, get signed URL. But what even it is about? I will maybe first copy it and then I will explain it, alright? So I copied this, get signed URL, I go back to my node, import curl, it's not the one, I have a new one, it's this command, and I say import, and I change the node name to get URL. And now let me explain what it is at all. We can see here on the left, it's input from the previous node, from that node that uploaded the file to Mistral. It uploaded it to Mistral, and Mistral gave us that ID. This is the identifier for our file, but already there, in that remote location, in their cloud. And what we can do now, we can create a signed URL. Signed URL is like a secure, temporary link that can access your file in that Mistral cloud. Because now our file is there in Mistral and it now just waits to be processed. But it's not processed yet. This signed URL is a secure link that we can use to locate our file in that Mistral cloud. And I need this ID. I want to move it here. In this URL, I want to replace, you can see like a $ID. I want to remove that. And what I really need, I want to move this container. I want to move this JSON object. You can even swap to JSON. You can see ID, yes? This is the JSON view. If I switch to schema, that's the schema view. And I can now hover over that and drag this ID here to that URL. And make sure this field up change to expression. You can click first expression and only then drag this container. This is JSON object. And whatever is in that object, we are not interested in about this value right now, because this is static value for this particular file. We are interested in this container, in this object. It doesn't matter what current value is. We want to have anything that is currently in this object, in this JSON object. That's why I drag this portion here and I say whatever is in that JSON ID, currently it's this, it's whatever is in that object, I want to have it in this URL. And if I click here, the result shows this actual value that is currently there. This is simply taken out from this container. Okay, I hope that makes sense. And below you can also change the expiry. By default it's 24 hours, but honestly we will need just maybe 1 hour or even not. But on the other hand, it's safe to leave 24 hours because they are pretty safe. This signed URL is really secure link. It can be valid for 24 hours, that's not a problem. And now let's scroll further. Not entirely sure if I need this header. Let's just remove it. But we need the API key again. So maybe let me remove this value for now. I will go back and copy it from the previous node, because I already don't have it in cache. I copied something else in the meantime. So I will go back and now to the get URL, again authorization, and this is bearer and this is my API key because it stays the same. And that, I believe, is everything we need here. So let's go back and we need one more HTTP request node. So search again, HTTP, that's the one we need. And now we need a node that will actually process the data. Go back to basic OCR, to this website I mean, and we search for, it's at the top, OCR with PDF. So basically the very first one here on this website right now. That's the curl command we need. I copy this one, I go back to my workflow, and again import curl. I remove that, and I paste this one. I say import. All fields are populated, and I will need API key again. So maybe I will first change the name again to, let's say, OCR results. I will go back again and copy my API key again from this node this time. That's the API key. I go back to my OCR results node and I paste it there. But if we scroll further, we will also change this, we will also have to change this document URL. For the time being, it's like some random, I don't know what it is even, but that's not really what we need. What we need is actually our document URL. And our document URL is that signed URL that we created in previous node. And unfortunately, I can't see it here because I forgot to run it and pin the data. What we have to do, I have to go back to Canvas and maybe let's run entire workflow, alright? So I will browse for my list document again, I will select it, I will submit it, this node will just go through, get URL seems to be working fine because it's also green, I will double click on that, I will pin this data as well, because I know everything seems to be fine, and I can even see problem in node OCR results. Well, I know about it, that's because we need that URL. Node OCR results is the next node, yes? Here I want to only pin the data, I go back, and we go to OCR results. We just double click on that, we scroll down, and now we have that URL. This is this long URL, it's signed URL, which allows us to pull the file back to our PC or wherever this n8n is running. So I just drag this, it's again a JSON object that says URL, and I drag it there, and paste it between those double quotes. And now we've got JSON URL. That's exactly what we need. So that's basically it. And the last thing here, this node will try to output everything as a binary file. You can see file here, yes, response format. So you can either change it to JSON, or what you can also do, you can simply remove that entire response field. And maybe I will use this option. I will simply remove, you only have this, send body, and there is nothing else. So let's now go back to canvas, and let's try to execute that workflow again. Let's see what happens. Select, submit. It will go through these because they are pinned, only this will be processed. Will it work as expected this time? And yes, we can see workflow executed successfully. Let me pin this data before I forget by clicking this pin data icon. And we can actually see already what was previously barely visible text we had in that PDF. We now have it in clear format. And maybe it's alright, maybe let's move a few pages, like no personal information is further down this document. But you can see now, it clearly says what it is. Demise premises the lesson making good damage, therefore blah blah. So whatever was in that poorly scanned PDF document, now I have it here and it's formatted properly. And every single page of that document is shown here as a single markdown field. If I scroll further, there is another markdown. It's another index. Index 7 means page 8 really, because computer starts counting from 0. And I can scroll further and further. Each page was translated by Mistral OCR and it's here. But it doesn't change the fact that it's still the same boring document I don't want to read. And maybe first of all, I want to get rid of all that redundant data. I don't need that, height, weight, dimensions, blah blah. I want to have it formatted properly and maybe not markdown, but maybe as a text document or Word document, or maybe, let's say, HTML document that I can simply open in this browser. And if you want to switch that view to HTML, it's actually very simple, because you go back and you add another node, which is called Markdown. That's the one. We want to switch Markdown to HTML code. There is one little issue though, because if all your documents had only one page, then you would have to go here. Page 0 is basically first page. You would want to drag this Markdown, simply first change to expression, yes. And now I can drag this field here. But the problem with that is, this is only working for page 0, which is this first page. Or if I want maybe to translate just page 1, I would remove this and I would drag that, yes? This will work only for page 1, but that's not what I need. My document has multiple pages and I need all of them to be translated to HTML, and maybe I want to also preserve the page numbers. So my query here has to be a little bit more sophisticated. And we can simply ask ChatGPT. We can copy this output here, maybe JSON, maybe in JSON format. I will just copy portion of that, and I can ask ChatGPT what JSON query I should use to preserve all the pages and to combine information only from Markdown field. I basically need each of them to be on a separate page. That will be again separate page, and that again. And that's exactly what I did. I asked ChatGPT, and ChatGPT came up with several solutions, because there is not one solution that works, but it told me to use, for example, that. And this indeed works as expected, because I already tested it. And the destination key, we also want to change it as HTML. So if I now go back to Canvas, let's run this workflow again. It says workflow executed successfully. So let's have a look. Let me pin that data before I forget. The input is that from OCR results. It's processed here in the middle, and the output is on my right. If I slide this view here to the right, this is HTML code that can be displayed by my browser. Again, let me scroll down, so there is no personal data, but you can see it's split into pages, and each markdown is now on separate page. And you could simply save it, and maybe that's what you need, yes? Maybe you want to display it in your browser, but that's not what I want to do. I don't want to read this document at all. I want an AI agent to have a look on that and either give me a summary of that, or maybe translate it to other language, or maybe I only need information about some fixtures, yes, like here, or external walls. Maybe I want to ask AI a very specific question. It will go through this document and will simply answer, instead of me going through 44 pages trying to find this information. And the good thing is, the HTML code is perfectly fine for AI. It doesn't need specific format. As long as it's formatted properly, like here, like it's one big blob, it can work with. For AI, it doesn't really matter if it's HTML, if it's text document, if it's Word document. This is basically something we can pass further to AI, if that's what we need. So I'll go back to Canvas. Maybe let's rearrange that a bit because we need a space for our AI agent. So I just tick that plus. I say AI agent. Let's switch the view to table. And now on the right, on the left side, on the input, but if we slide to the right, we've got this HTML code. And maybe let's scroll it down a little bit, so there is no personal information, only some generic one. And all I have to do here is to create a prompt for my AI agent. What should be the source of the prompt? And I say, I will define it below. I click that, and I simply tell it, take all the information from this HTML, which is another JSON object that stores all this data, yes? So again, change this to expression here now, and move this HTML field there. So take all the information from this field, basically everything that is there, and create a summary of that document. It's a very basic prompt. You can get more sophisticated one, or maybe you want to ask specific question, or maybe you want to translate it to other language. That's where you can specify the instruction for AI agent, what to do with it. I will just tell it to create a summary, but maybe that's not what you want. Maybe you want to do something else. That's where you specify that information. So I will go back to Canvas because that's all we need here. And our agent is red right now because it doesn't have any LLM model attached. And to attach LLM model, you need one more thing. You have to sign up to one of the LLMs, which means you can click that plus, but you also will need an account on one of those providers. And I have, for example, OpenAI, which has like ChatGPT and, GPT 3.5 or GPT 4.1 models. You can use Ollama, which I think has some free of charge models for you to use. But what I would really recommend is to get an account on that OpenRouter. Why? Let me show you. I click that OpenRouter. And what OpenRouter allows me to do, I can choose any LLM model I want. Look, I've got OpenAI here included. Let me scroll down maybe. We've got Grok from X, yes. We've got some Thought DM, I don't know what it is. The Drummer, no idea as well. Some SAO, blah blah blah, QN. And we also have Perplexity. You have one tool that has access to most of the LLMs, or maybe all of the LLMs, because most of them I've never even heard of. And we've got also OpenAI included here. Like OpenAI GPT 4.1 Mini is selected by default. But the thing is, if you want to use OpenRouter and OpenAI model, then you have to first create an account on OpenRouter, and then you have to add some credits to your account. So you have to top up, for example, $5, and then you can use those credits when you use the API keys. You would go then to API keys, you would create your API key, and once you have that API key, you go back. Let me maybe duplicate this tab. Basically go back to the main page, you create credential, and you create credential for OpenRouter. And you paste your API key here. But I already have one, so I don't have to do it. But if you think it's worth it, and I really recommend it, because then you have access to all LLMs. You can switch between various different large language models. And I chose 4.1 Mini, or maybe 4.1, let's change it to 4.1, not 4.1 Mini. And that's basically all I need. I can go back to Canvas. Now the AI agent is happy, it's not red anymore at least. So now, maybe let's save. It's quite a lot of work, it's worth to save every now and then. And let's execute that workflow again. Let's see what happens. My list document, select, submit. It went through because all the information is pinned, but AI agent now works on a summary of that document for us. It took a while, but it says workflow executed successfully. And if I double click on that, that's what I have currently. Here is a summary of the key information in the document provided. And it's a much shorter version. For example, alterations, no structural alterations or exterior changes without written consent. Now I have one page to go through rather than 44. Or if I have specific question about this document, I can simply change it here. And that's where we are now. But you can develop it even further. What you want to do with this document? Maybe you want to send it to WhatsApp, maybe to Telegram, maybe you want to email it somewhere. Or maybe this is just the first part of your longer automation. Maybe you want to add even more nodes, maybe you want to process it even further, I don't know. You can add memory, you can add tools, you can continue that workflow, develop it even further. You can do anything you want with it. And probably every person will have different needs and will want to do different, maybe send it somewhere else. But for me, this stage is completed because our document is processed and it's been summarized. And that was my goal here today. I hope the video was helpful and clear enough for you to build this solution yourself. Please remember to join our Automation Avenue platform if you want to learn more about n8n, about automation, or maybe Python programming, AWS cloud, and many other topics. You will find there hours and hours of very useful materials. So thank you for watching and see you later.